At long last, we are in Shimla to get a taste of the highly anticipated TVS RTX 300. And honestly, if as far as first impressions go, the way it looks, I think TVS have most definitely nailed it. I think this is a lovely looking motorcycle. Looks like a much bigger motorcycle than a 300cc. And it also has all the equipment to back its tourer tag. You have 180 mm of suspension travel at the front and the back. You have a 1917 wheel setup. You have alloys, which means you get tubeless tires. The tires also new. These are from Eurogrip. They are called Explore Plus, if I remember correctly. You have upright ergonomics. You have, and because of the 1917 setup, you have 200 mm of travel at your disposal. It is enough and more for tackling any bad roads. And at the same time, you have a really accessible 835 mm seat height. So it's not going to be very intimidating. But the big news, of course, is the new RTX engine. In case you're wondering why on earth did TVS decide to make an all-new 299cc liquid-cooled engine when they already had the tried and tested 310cc engine that we have experienced for quite a few years now on the RR310 and the RTR, and which has obviously been refined over the years. That's because with this particular genre of motorcycling, they thought they needed something different. They did not want something very high revving. They wanted something which is a lot more tractable. This one actually has a heavier crank. There's a lot of focus on durability in terms of the components inside, a lot of focus on heat management, because this is the first motorcycle, to the best of my knowledge, from TVS which has dual water jackets. This has a dual oil pump. They also have done quite a few changes to the fairing to direct more air towards the radiator and the engine to cool it down. And the idea there is no matter what the terrain, no matter how long you are in the saddle, the performance should stay the same. And the first experience of the engine, I'm a little bit surprised because this honestly does not feel that much different compared to the engine on the RR310. It definitely, see right now I'm in the third gear, and this entire morning we have been riding in the third gear, and it's definitely a lot more tractable. It'll just chug along almost like a long stroke motor. But the problem is when you get on the gas, nothing really happens. It pulls cleanly, but the power comes in much later. In almost too linear a fashion. It almost feels like the gear ratios are really tall from the first gear. So it really doesn't have the punch which you expect. I don't expect it to have this really brilliant low end, but I expected a much stronger mid-range, which you expect from a tourer. And that's not there. It only gets going after 5,000 RPM. So I found myself in a lot of positions this morning, even with the quick overtakes. I was in the third gear, I got on the gas, and the overtakes turned out to be a lot closer than I thought and would have liked them to be. I mean, it does make 36 horses. It still makes 28.5 Newton meter of torque. But again, it's much higher up. Maybe the gearing is a little too tall. Yeah, or maybe just the fueling. The maps have room for improvement. Or maybe just the final drive. And then, of course, you also have the vibrations. You first start feeling them on the pegs, then on the engine, then on the handlebar. Handlebar not as much, from as low as 4,000 RPM. But I also have to mention this, that this entire day we have been riding on a road like this. Really tight, really twisty, really broken roads. The rains have really left the road in tatters here in Shimla. So we have never really had a chance to allow the engine to really stretch its legs. So I'm in no position to tell you how good the windscreen is, how good the, or what the cruising speed is. Because again, as we have seen on so many motorcycles in the 4th, 5th and 6th gear, a lot of the motorcycles calm down, the vibrations calm down, and that's what makes them good tourers. For that, I guess we'll just have to wait until we hit a highway at some point to see how a bike feels when it stretches its legs. The other thing which you also have on this BTO variant is a bi-directional quick shifter, and again it's a unconventional one in the sense like you do not see any sensors on top of the gear lever. It's all inside. So it mainly takes into account the pressure that you're putting on the gear lever, and then it slots the gear in place, whether up or down. I thought the blipper was fine, but I thought the quick shifter was not the smoothest. Definitely nowhere close to being as smooth as what you experience on the RTR or the RR310. This required a lot more effort. It was not the most consistent. But the one thing which you must have already seen so far in the video is just how good this suspension is. I am truly blown away at the composure. I mean, this is the one thing which TVS have always done really, really well. They have always got the suspension bang on. You have the right amount of support when you're braking really hard, and the right amount of plushness to basically take everything in its stride. And that's no different here. In fact, we just hit an insanely technical, pretty gnarly off-road section, and I was blown. So this is of course the top spec BTO variant. This has adjustable suspension, adjustable for compression and rebound in the front, and preload and rear rebound. But I did not even need to touch it. It worked superb out of the box. Worked really well on the road, like right now, and worked equally good off-road. And another thing when you're going off-road that you notice is just how amazing the weight distribution is on the bike. It weighs 180 kgs, primarily down to a much smaller 12.5 liter tank, but it doesn't even feel 180 kg. It feels much, much lighter. It feels really quick on its feet, really agile. You have this nice leverage of the handlebar to pick the line that you want to take. So the weight distribution, the riding dynamics, the balance, the suspension is superb. And another big check for me, breathe out a sigh of relief, is the riding ergonomics. I almost was dreading riding the motorcycle yesterday when I saw that the seat height was 835 millimeters. And this is a pattern which we have seen with so many manufacturers, where everyone's gone for a lower seat height to make the bike accessible. But then the rider's triangle becomes really tight and almost unbearable for taller riders. And on this bike, that's not the case, because the rider's triangle is nice and roomy. There's so much room for you to move around. Even the seat seems really well padded for both the rider as well as pillion, designed for the longer hauls. Of course, this is a very short ride. I think today, by the time we hit the hotel again, we would have just clocked about 100 odd kilometers. But at least the first impressions for the seat are very good. The balance is beautiful. I think this is going to be like the biggest advantage of this motorcycle over its competition, is just how easy it is to ride, just how unintimidating it is to ride. It looks like a big bike, but handles like a small one. Then we have the brakes. I think the brakes are really good. You have a big 320mm disc at the front, but I'm not the happiest with the ABS setting. You of course get 4 different ABS settings as per the 4 riding modes, and I can understand how TVS would have wanted to make the brakes a little less powerful up front when you're riding in the dirt. But then that's the beauty of having riding modes. You can calibrate the ABS as per different riding modes. So here in the rally mode in which we are riding right now, which gets full power along with the touring mode, you don't get ABS at the back. The rear ABS is disengaged. So I felt the ABS, even in the touring mode, was very intrusive, which prevented you from putting all the stopping power down. And I'm pretty sure it's not the tires. In fact, the tires are something which have impressed me a lot, because we have been riding in, as you can see, all sorts of terrain. muddy, slippery, pebbly, a lot of dust, and I don't really have any complaints with the tires. I think they've taken everything that the terrain's thrown at them in their strides. And there's of course a really good connection from the front end as well. That's again where TVS shines in terms of the new rigid frame, the new trellis frame that they have here, the suspension setup. Everything just works really, really well together. Next, about the heat, I can't really tell you much about the heat. I know they've done a lot of work for the heat management, but again, we have been riding in amazing weather here in Shimla, so we'll have to wait till we ride in Pune in the searing October heat to see how the heat management is in those conditions. Same thing for the cruising speed and how the windscreen works. I'm a little bit disappointed it's not adjustable, but again, we have not been on roads where we could actually really open up the engine and experience how much wind blast this windscreen is able to fend off without causing buffeting. So we'll have to wait till we ride on a proper highways. The other good thing that they have here, of course, is you have this nice TFT screen in terms of tech. You also have Bluetooth connectivity and phone mirroring feature where the screen splits up, and just like you've seen on the Himalayan, you actually see the maps displayed on the instrument cluster, which is pretty cool. But just like on the Himalayan, the phone needs to stay on, the screen needs to stay on. And secondly, it only works when there is network. When there's no network, it stops working, which is kind of a bummer. And the second thing which I'm a little bit bummed about is the fact that if you have this feature, I really think that they should have given the USB charger as standard. Right now, they offer it as an accessory, and I see it as a mixed opportunity. Another handy feature that we'll experience when we're on the highway is the cruise control. So that comes as standard even on the base model, which I think is brilliant. To summarize, the Apache RTX 300 is pretty much in line with kind of expected from TVS, because all the things that they're really good at, they continue to shine on this motorcycle as well. To start with, like the suspension, I am truly blown away. Next thing which I love are the ergonomics. There is a lot of room for you to move around, even though the seat is very accessible at 835 millimeters. There's enough and more room for you to move around, and even when I was standing up, I felt the riding position was pretty much perfect for my 511 frame. Next, I love the weight distribution, the mass centralization, the bike. It inspires a lot of confidence. It's a very forgiving bike. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's very user-friendly, and new riders are gonna love it, especially if you're jumping onto a bigger motorcycle. But at the same time, you have the big dimensions of a 650cc adventure bike. So that's again a big plus, especially for Indian audience who love big looking motorcycles. The engine, looking at how well the motorcycle has shaped up otherwise, seems to be the weakest link. There's not much wrong with it per se, but whatever differentiation that TVS were aiming for to differentiate it from the 310 engine, which has been in development, which we have seen numerous iterations of, it doesn't feel that much more different. The only place where you can feel the benefits of maybe the heavier crank is the tractability at lower speeds is much better. But the problem is, even though it pulls cleanly, it doesn't really have the poke. It only gets going in much higher RPM. Above 6,000 RPM is when you feel it really starts going. You wish it had better mid-range to really come together as a package, which is primarily aimed at touring. And the other part of the engine was also vibrations. I felt quite a few vibrations on the engine, on the pegs, not as much on the handlebar. And they also started coming in much earlier, around 4,000 RPM. Now, again, there's a very good chance that all of these vibrations might settle down in the 4th, 5th, 6th gear, as we have seen on multiple motorcycles, but we never got a chance to ride it on that kind of a road. So again, we'll have to wait till I ride on a highway to understand if all the vibrations settle down. Other parts where it could be better is definitely the fuel tank capacity is only 12.5 liters, which I don't think is enough. You also don't get an IMU, which, to be honest, I'm okay with, considering the fact that you still have traction control, considering the fact that you still have riding modes. and they have dialed in all the electronics pretty well. Even the fueling on this, some people seem to have a problem, at least on my bike. I had no fueling issues whatsoever. So yeah, overall, in terms of value for money, even in this stage right now, with whatever drawbacks that it has, it still makes a very, very strong case, mainly because of its really tempting 2 lakh rupee price tag for the base model. This one, the top one, will I think go up to 2.29, and the top variant, which doesn't get the adjustable suspension, which doesn't get the TPMS and the brass chain, will put you back by around 2.14 lakhs, which is still very, very competitive pricing. And already as a package, I think this has a big, big advantage over the KTM 250 Adventure, as well as your Suzuki V-Strom 250. And I'm sure, as we have seen with the RTR and even the RR310, every year with every iteration, you see the motorcycles become even more refined, the engine become even more refined. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of scope for this to improve. And again, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there'll also be like a rally spec version with a 21-inch front and spoke wheels, because the chassis, the suspension already seem to be more than capable to make this a proper firecracker when it comes to off-road. It's just the engine, maybe the gear ratios need to be shortened to make it a little more peppy to ride. But yeah, a motorcycle with a ton of potential.